We have these birds in Western Australia, which are called woolly wagtails. I don't know their proper name, but they are the cutest birds. They land somewhere and then they kind of wag their tail like as soon as they land. It's so cute. It's just a lot of them land on the grass. Like they're very proud birds. Then somebody named them a woolly wagtail. So, today I'm going to answer more questions. Now, first of all, just wanted to talk about this moment. A lot of teachings say you need to be in this moment, you need to be in the now. Happiness is being in the now. And I don't disagree with that. That's perfect for whoever's listening to it or whatever it's doing. It shouldn't be any other way. However, what I would say is you don't need to be in the now. You are the now. And what happened here was that all the dynamics that kept me attached to past and future, perpetually living in this dynamic of always trying to get something or avoid something, fell away. And it was seen that I always was and always am in the now. And there's not here an effort to be in the now. It's just what there is. Always just this moment. And when all that seeking dynamic or rejection of life falls away, it's seen that all that ever was and ever is this. I'm just left with this. Someone wrote to me a good question. Well, a question about this. Who was it? It was Bruce, I think. Okay, he says, if I don't subscribe to my own story, I won't have a life. So that's just one part of the question. And of course you'll have a life. Lisa's being lived. This is happening. I'm going to go and pick my parents up from the airport. I'm going to run around and try and clean the house in a minute before they come. And sit and have dinner with my parents or go for a walk with them with the dogs. Of course you'll have a life. What there won't be anymore is the obsession with the story. The obsession, the story in the past and what's going to happen to the story in the future. And that appears incredibly boring to the mind. I was watching an interview of myself the other day, a little bit of an interview, and I think I even said to the interviewer, I'm an incredibly boring interview because there isn't much drama or much story here, but that isn't missed at all. There's just what there is. You'll have a life, but without the suffering element there. Life still happens. There's just not the rejecting, not the trying to make a story to avoid what is. Trying to escape for it through past and future. There's just what is, and when teachers say there's nobody left, they mean that element of the story maker is falling away. There's just I amness, just being. And it's far from boring here. It might be boring to the perception of other minds, of other stories. But life is radically alive. There's such involvement here in what is. A bird starts jumping around in front of me, and there's, wow. I just spent a good 15 minutes playing the little dog song that living with it. It was such involvement in the simplicity of what is. And drama might go on around you, but there's not all the projections. He shouldn't be doing that, she shouldn't be doing that, I should be doing this. They're doing this because they want to manipulate me and da-da-da-da-da. There's just what there is. How can anything act out of line to nature? If it cannot be perceived by the mind, how is it that it does not ever evade your perception? Okay, so 2 different questions. Okay, how can anything act out of line to nature? It can't. Just is what it is. I don't know what you mean by nature, though. Okay. What I took the question was, is how can anything act out of line? Nothing can act out of line. This is what keeps being said here. There is nothing out of place. There's no sense here that anybody's right or wrong. And it's not through effort, it's not through some intellectual interpretation of life, it's just the dynamics of believing in opposites, so right and wrong, good and bad, self and other, have fallen away. It's not that if my dog poops or the dog I'm looking after poops in the house, I don't go, naughty dog, don't poop in the house. It's that the dynamic, the energetic contraction of two-ness, of opposites, has fallen away. It's not through intellectual effort, though. It's not through trying to stay in stillness and space. It's effortless. There's not someone here doing that. There's not someone here thinking in twos and then another thought coming up and correcting it. So there's not someone thinking this is bad and this is good, and then another thought coming up and say, oh, you shouldn't do this or that, or this is good and this is bad. It just doesn't come up. It's like a child, childlike innocence. Just being what is, the wonder of what is. This takes her fancy and then this takes her fancy. You remember this from childhood. There was great recognition of this in childhood, throughout my life, but particularly in childhood. There's nothing to hold on to. It's not that there's somebody not holding on to something. There's just nothing. You're no thing. Everything else comes and goes. You're no thing. Everything else is experience. And when there's the relaxation or the suffering dynamic of self falls away, there's nothing identified with. Everything is welcome, not good, bad, right, wrong, shame, pride, guilt, blame. This brain doesn't work as well as it used to. I couldn't think of the opposite to shame. If it cannot be perceived by the mind, how is it that it does not evade your perception? Oh, what, so if happiness, like who you are, no thing, can't be perceived, because perception isn't coming from the mind. There's no thing. And this consciousness, and when consciousness arises, everything arises. Life arises, the existence. Consciousness, what it sees. The mind isn't consciousness. Mind is the mind. Thoughts are thoughts. There's something else in the perception that's just watching. And consciousness is no thing. It comes from no thing. It is no thing. And everything arises into it, arises in it. So there's no thing. Out of no thing, consciousness arises. And then out of consciousness, or no thing, there's everything. So it's not that you're consciousness, although I could easily say you're consciousness, your awareness, you're what's watching, but actually you're no thing. So not even holding to consciousness either. You're no thing. Because if you say you're consciousness, I get a lot of people then writing to me saying, I never die. Because I'm consciousness, and it's like then the I goes to consciousness. There's relief in the consciousness. You're no thing. No thing. This is all very heavy. Another thing, I was talking with my teacher today, who popped in for a cup of tea, and he was asking me what questions I get from people, and I told him the most common question I got. Oh, careful, peaches. Little tiny bug. I said the most common question I got was people that had awakened, and this actually goes on to another question that I have here. So this is from a lady called Bleeker, who wrote to me on Facebook, and basically she told me this beautiful story about when she was 19 and she had a massive awakening, and then slowly over time the ego, or the sense of I, came back. There was an identification with the story, with claiming it. And basically at the end she said, how do I get back to it? And she went into a lot of suffering trying to search back for the stillness and the space. Now my reply to that would be, did you ever do anything to get into that stillness and space in the first place? The self can never get into it, because it's the self, the seeking energy, that veils the stillness and the space and who you are, the end of suffering. So how could the separate self ever get back into that space? So I was telling my teacher that this is the main question I got, and his comment, first of all, I said that one of my replies is that when you're imagining stillness and space, you're imagining it in suffering. It's an imagination and a memory that comes when you're suffering. It's not actually it. And what you're doing in imagining it in suffering is you're creating this idea of stillness and space, and then putting it in front of you like another carrot. And it's not you doing it, this is just the dynamic that's happening. This is just the dynamic of the separate self. So it's put this idea of stillness and space in front of the character, and now the character's trying to get to that. But it's an imagination, it's an idea that's coming from suffering. You're only imagining being in stillness and space when you're suffering. You're only wanting to get back there when you suffer. And how can you ever imagine stillness and space when you're suffering? It's the opposite to what's happening. There's the contraction and the feeling like a somebody. There's the doership there. And the stillness and the space, or the peace, or the nothingness, is the absence of that dynamic. It's what's always there, but just the separate self fails it like this. And the separate self, the seeking energy, is what's seen. So it's a trick, it's an absolute trick. A trick for nobody, because there's nobody that can get out of it or do anything. It's just the dynamic, the game of the separate self. So what my teacher said was, they've set it up as another pleasure. So you've set this idea of what you want, the stillness, the space, the end of suffering, the experience, as another pleasure. The experience, because you're no experience, you're no thing. So you've got this idea of an experience in which you've set up as another pleasure. Another pleasure exactly the same as the businessman chasing money. There's an idea of what the separate self needs to get to be happy. And the craziness is you are that happiness. It's that dynamic, that seeking dynamic, seeking after pleasure and avoiding pain, that covers the happiness. And Brika, when you had this awakening, you weren't doing anything. It just happened spontaneously. And then the self comes back in and claims it and says, oh yes, I need to do this to keep it, I need to do that to keep it. Which is a trick of the mind, but a trick on no one. And I'm not suggesting do anything or don't do anything, because that's another seeking. I'm not even suggesting stop seeking, you can't. Who is the self? The self is the seeker. When the self falls away, you're nothing. You're just beingness, life, watching, holding to nothing, but nobody holding to nothing. It can be seen through, but by and for nobody. These dynamics can be seen through. And this is the majority of my questions. It's how do I get back to the stillness and space? Even in calling it stillness and space, you're setting up an idea, an experience that you think it is. Happiness is the end of suffering. It's not becoming something, it's the end of the seeker. It's becoming no thing and everything, or beingness. It's becoming life without the filter of self. It's not a certain experience of bliss, or like even saying stillness and space, and I call it this, but even saying that is still setting up a dynamic of an expectation of what it is or should be, which is in the mind. It is this. Can't be spoken of, really. Obviously, we call it labels to try and talk about it. And another thing that I want to keep coming back to is it is impossible not to talk in self and other. So often when I talk, I'm talking about the dynamics of, I suppose, somebody there. Like I was just talking and I was saying, and then what happens is there's an expectation of what the self is. And it sounds like I'm saying there is somebody there that's created that expectation. And I want to keep coming back to, there's nobody there. And in liberation, or happiness, or whatever, you don't live when there's nobody there. You live in no thing, no conceptual understanding of this. It's just this. But the concept of nobody there picks away all that seeking mentality, all the addiction to future and past, this addiction to the story. There's just this, just experience, holding to nothing, no idea of who I am, what I am. It's just this. Okay. So this is from, we had a giggle on Facebook of how I would pronounce his name. It's, I think he's from Denmark. I forget what you're from actually. Geez. I'm going to call him Geez. You know who you are because you knew that I'd have a problem saying it. So there's been a flip-flopping in awakening. And basically he, at the end of the question, he explained all the experience and then said, I'm afraid I am hijacking this. I am hijacking no thing or no self or... And who is it that's afraid that you're hijacking it? You think that's self? The one that's afraid is the seeker, is the mind. Playing the new game of, oh God, I've not got to hijack this. How can I stop myself hijacking it? It's so unbelievable. If you don't stop yourself hijacking it, you're going to fall back into pits of despair, suffering. You're going to lose this. Who is it that's hijacking? Who is it that's afraid of hijacking? Okay, so there was voice. Boy, maybe, not voice. I think that his question was the difference between the big I and the little I. Hiya. Yeah, sure, go for it. Mister, come on. What's his name? Ruggles, come. It's so cute. Did I leave my room a mess? I don't know if you heard that. There's a builder and he said I go and work in the room. Did I leave anything laying around? That shouldn't be. No, let's hope not. Shoulds and shouldn'ts. So yeah, so he was talking about the big I and the little I. I actually forget what his question is, and this is my boyfriend that wrote this down. I can't read his writing. So I don't really talk in the language of the big I and the little I. Not there's anything wrong with that, it's just we all have our languages. So all there is self. All there is the big self. I amness, beingness. And then the trick gets played. There's a me here that can do something. That can control, create, make life a certain way. And that's the greatest illusion, which creates an immense amount of suffering. But there's no one that can get out of this. A lot of people believe that they can get out of this. And there's nothing wrong with that. When I started in Buddhism, I used to believe that if I meditated or understood the teachings enough, I could get out of this. But then this falls away till there's nothing left. There's just experience, no ideas left. Doer, not doer, any of it. But when I say there's no, the idea of doer and no doer, but there's nothing here left that there's identified with. So although I say no doer and the doer and the no doer falls away, those ideas fall away too, but there's nothing here being held to, as in I did this or I got liberated. I'm a good teacher or I'm a bad teacher. It's just what it is. Just left with the moment. So I hope that answered your question, boy. So, God, I'm ploughing through them today. We've got Nina. Is there any way that you may be able to help me detach from all the seeking, identification, needs, and mind games? I just want to end suffering and be me, free, one with all and no one and no thing. But again, who is it that wants to be free? You are no thing. You are being. You are life. You are everything. This idea, I want to be free, is coming from this. It's coming from suffering. It is this. It's the same dynamic of I want money. You've got an idea of what you want, an idea of no thing, of oneness or being free. You've got an idea of an experience, and that experience, as soon as it is a something, is an idea of a pleasure, an idea of something that will make you happy. Happiness is the no you. Happiness is all these ideas falling away. Even the idea of enlightenment and wanting enlightenment. Even the idea that you want to end suffering. And I don't know how or why it happens. It's just God's will. It's just life's will. Like here, it came to a point where even suffering was allowed. And in suffering being allowed, it fell away. But I didn't allow it, it just was allowed. I wasn't trying to get away from suffering. And what is suffering? Seeking. Separate self. It was just an absolute acceptance of it, of the dynamic of it, and the impersonal nature to it. The mind wants to think that liberation or seeking for enlightenment is more noble than somebody seeking for money. This is all mind activity. This is all claiming, identifying. Life is so completely impersonal. There's no sense here that this state is better than somebody deeply suffering. There's a feeling of sadness for the person or the suffering that is witnessed. But there's no sense it's better or not better. It's just what it is. Just what it is. There's no interpretation really of it. When somebody's crying in front of you and there's sadness for them, there's no sense it should or shouldn't be there. So Nina, who is it that is seeking enlightenment? And the seeking for enlightenment is trying to avoid and avert suffering. And in this game, the individual plays, the separate self plays, the suffering plays. And it's easy to sit there on the other side of this, not thinking that this character, body, mind, being, wasn't whipped by the Zen stick of what I'm saying. I remember when I was younger, I was in this Buddhist group, and everyone had to go around and say why they were there. And everyone was like, a bit more peace in my life. I want to get on better with my husband. That's why they were meditating, why they were at the Buddhist center. I want to have a better relationship with their children. I want to be more calm at work. I was looking at them and I was like, it came to me and I was like, I want to be enlightened. Forget all this little bit of peace more here and there. I want to be enlightened. I remember being really shocked by everyone's answer. And then, after I'd said this, everyone just laughed. I was like, huh. They were just laughing. And so, what I'm saying is Lisa had great attachment to this enlightenment story. Or I had great attachment to this enlightenment story. That goes to who or what is enlightened. There is nobody. Nobody becomes enlightened. The body, the somebody that thinks there is something, falls away. nothing. It's radical, radical. I was thinking about the story of Jesus recently, what with it being Christmas and all, and it just really struck me, Jesus being nailed to the cross. And I know very little about Christianity and Jesus, so please forgive me if I'm getting the stories wrong. But just the fact that he walked through the streets with his cross that he was going to be nailed and killed to on his back, while people shouted abuse at him and threw vegetables, and he walked up the hill and then was nailed to his cross and bled to death in the burning sun. And not once does he blame, not once does he say it shouldn't be happening, or there should be something else. He says, "Forgive them, they know not what they do." This is radical. That would have been painful, incredibly painful, physically painful. Not reacting to one slight bit of abuse, attaching to nothing, not believing that they have to be nice to him, have to be a certain way, not throw vegetables, save him. He was attached to nothing. And the only way that could happen is if you have no ideas and expectations of how life should be. If somebody being there, believing life should be a certain way. The only way he could be at peace with this was by rejecting no part of life. And rejecting no part of life means that all seeking falls away. All seeking and averting falls away. And that means the self, the one that believes there is something, some experience, some being that has to control, create and make life a certain experience. There was no thing. He was unreactive because he didn't see himself as a solid object. It was beautiful. It's beautiful, but it's so radical. If there is a holding to anything, believing you can get to enlightenment, believing that you can make your life happy, believing that you can obtain money if you want, believing that you are better than somebody else, that you've got a better story than someone else because it's the story of enlightenment, believing you can create peace in the world or avoid making other people unhappy. According to Jesus' story, a lot of people were very unhappy with him. He had no idea of self, no sense of self. Therefore, everything was allowed, including a very difficult physical situation. It's beautiful. It's pure love to have no holding to anything, any experience, anything, to be nothing, to have nothing, to live as a poor man, poor woman, absolutely empty. It's radical. It's radical. It's radical. Okay, so we've done fruit. Okay, so I'll answer one more question, I think. And this is from Chad. He wants to know my political views. I think after what I just said, you can pretty much get an idea of what the answer is going to be. I have no views. There is nobody here to have views. It's just as it is. However, there is a preference to things. This being recycles. She loves animals. She loves nature and environment. There's no views that I think this happens as right or wrong. Because if I believed that anything is the way to be or not the way to be, there would have to be a self here to believe that. But I'm a vegetarian stroke vegan. I love dogs, I recite, I'm not saying that there's not ways in which you do things. There's just no opinion held to here. Life is just what it is. There's no stance. Wow, a lot of words today, hey? So, I don't think I'm going to say much more, but maybe I'm going to get a poochie up. Freckles! So there's not going to be many more words. If you enjoy animals, then... Come on, buddy, is coming up? Who's coming up? Who's coming up? Oh my goodness, you two cuties. Oh, yay! What a cutie. You can't really see him. What a cutie. Really? You want to sit that way? Are you happy that way? Okay. He doesn't want to look at the camera. Semuanya. You want to look at the camera, Ruggles? Yeah? Whoops. No, knock the camera over there. Put the camera down a little. Oh, what a good boy. No, he just wants to sleep. Oh, look at him. He's like a teddy bear. Leave him in peace then. This is what you want to do, my sweet. He's just had his breakfast, so his full belly is maybe making him sleep. Much love to you. Thank you.